Assalamualaikum to Dr. Jula and my fellow friends. Today, me, Nori Ona Mesra binti Muhammad Rizal and Muhammad Azim Al-Qari bin Muhammad Afia will present about the economic theory. First of all, I will present about the Adam Smith. Adam Smith is a classical economist and pioneer of capitalism economic system. He also has a famous book named An Inquiry into Nature and Cause of Wealth of Nations that talk about the development industry and trade in Europe, as well as the policies of the development of free trade and capitalism. First we look at the similarities. The similarities between Adam Smith and David Ricardo theories of substantial capital production on manpower and technological advancement. And the differences is the producers are free to produce whatever they want. Prices are highly determined by the labor. For the strengths, there are three important factors of specialization. Firstly, through specialization, labor productivity increase, and further real wages, purchasing power, demand, and market competitiveness also increase. Next, labor specialization is highly dependent on the structure of demand. Last but not least, for Adam Smith, the difference in the rate of growth occurs depending on the amount of productive labor and unproductive labor available in the country. For the weakness, the labor difference gives rise to productivity differences, so that the price difference occurs. Next, the international trade will not occur if the factors of production or efficiency in both countries is the same, because the price of similar goods will be the same in both countries. Next I will talk about the David Ricardo. David Ricardo is one of the most influential of the classical economists along with Adam Smith. He is best known for his theory on wages and profit, the labor theory of value, the theory of cooperative advantage, and the theory of rents. He is the most influenced British political economist. For the similarities, Marx also used Ricardo's predictions of economic stagnation in predicting working class uprisings. When the capitalism erodes its own foundations, the resultant suffering is expected to lead to social conflict and revolution. It is unlikely that Ricardo would support the political brand of the Marx Revolution, but the connection between these schools of thought is undeniable. The theory wished to explain the exchange value of an item or commodity was labeled by socialists as the iron law of wage theories, which means the workers in the vicious cycles that cannot be released. The theory is line with Adam Smith's theory, which later became the basis for the Karl Marx to develop his own theory with the name surplus theory of values. For the differences, for the core values, due to the influence of Ricardo, who struggled in Parliament to repeal the Corn Law in the year of 1820 until the year of 1850, arose the anti-Corn Law movement, a movement that opposed the regulation of the corn trading system in England. The emergence of this movement was based on the belief of classical economists who stated that these trade arrangements would bring more poverty than profit. The influence of Ricardo teaching spread to Germany. They believed that the trade should be liberated without interference from any party, whether government or private. From this point of view, a school of economic views was established known as the Manchester School, which was the first established in the city of Manchester. For the strengths, the theory put forward by David Ricardo greatly influenced other economists. Karl Marx was influenced by David Ricardo through his theory of labor value, which is labor theory of value, which explains that the value of a product is determined by the amount of labor required in the manufacture of the product. John Stuart Mill also used the theory of David Ricardo in his efforts to bring about social reform. However, for the weakness, David Ricardo received the most criticism because in doing economic analysis, He was often rigid and cold. As a result, economics is ridiculed as a science that does not feel. Where is the discussion experts? Ricardo tried to use moderations, using mind and common sense, and avoid elements of feelings or sentiments. Last but not least, I will present about Karl Marx. Karl Marx is a philosopher, critic of political economy, historian, sociologist, and also political theorist. Marx theories is about the society, economics, politics are understood as a Marxism. He known as a father of scientific socialism. His famous book about Das Kapital, known as the Bible of the Socialism, in the year of 1867, he presented the process of growth and collapse of the capital economy that written in the German language. For the similarities, Marx and Smith wrote about the capitalism, which is the economic development controlled by the private sector or business owner that organize and control the process of production and also own the production, such as factories, raw materials, and tools to maximize the profit with the intervention from the government. Both of them also believe that the labor assigns value to object and agree the consumption rises to production. For the differences, Smith, Ricardo, and Marx have a different talk or theories about role factors of production. Marx discussed about capital, while Adam Smith was focusing in labor factor, and Ricardo argument was about land. For example, Marx thought that capital ownership was important to someone to compete in production operations. Next, for the strenuous, the speed up strategy in labor intensity increased the value produced by the labor and thus increase the rate of profit, so that they will compete each other for the fewer jobs by working more harder due to the higher of unemployment occurred because of the changes in technologies. The huge contribution of Marx theories is introducing the concept of perjuangan class, or known also as a class struggle, which is the catalyst for the laborers on working class to rise up to defending their rights and freedoms from continuously becoming escudo tunganga for the capitalists. Okay. However, for the weakness of the Karl Marx thought was opposite with the industrial country. For the capital competition issues, big financiers only have the power or ability to continue the business operation was not happening in fact. However, the role of small financiers is still important in both developing countries or industrial countries. As a result, the operation can still continue to fulfill demand of the certain goods. Next, the modern technologies not necessarily increase the capital and also not bring the rate of profit decrease. Thus, this shown the assumption of Marx that return increase not consistency with the statement that fall in profit rates. Okay, thank you.
First of all, I will explain on a neoclassical model which is developed by Robert Solow and Travis Wan. The first one, what is the neoclassic model? Neoclassic growth theory is an economic theory that outlines how a steady economic growth rates results from a combination of three driving forces: labor, capital, and technology. The National Bureau of Economic Research, names Robert Solow and Travis Wan, has having the credit of developing and introducing the model of the long-run economic growth in 1956. So what is the differences between the neoclassical model and other model? The first one is considered involvement of individuals in the economy. Neoclassical using a different method from other models, so it more fair. And second one is the focusing on how operates within an economy. It is focusing on labor, capital, technology, and this model consists of many sectors in economic growth. The third one is influenced by mathematical approach than the other model. So they are research using a statistic in a develop of an economy. So what is the similarities between the neoclassical model and other model? So all of the model in theory of economic growth top management, but The second one is many alternatives in the economy and based on consumer perceptions. Good consumer perceptions giving economics stability. The third one is focus how individuals behave within economy, which makes easier to evaluate problem in long term because it is focusing in how labor performance or technology medium can increase capital in future. This is why workforce is growing at a steady rate. The fourth one is giving economy chances to improve and more stability. This model is given assumptions capital output ratio is changing. They are not in the same pace. And the fifth one is give freedom to individuals to choose. They try to involve a society in decision making. So if we have a strength, then we have also a weakness of the neoclassical model. So next, I will state some of weakness that compare in neoclassical model. First one is there is no certainty in the long growth term. So depends on the global economy and they cannot predict what happen in the future. So the second one is economic growth is likely to take a long time because, for example, a change in the rate of capital formation is in a response to changes in relative factors, prices through changes in a profit rates. So it will more longer if capital is low and workforce not in the full employment. So the third one is the possibility of permanent unemployment. Depends on economic growth. If economic growth decrease, then the organization or neoclassical model itself is don't have money to pay the workforce itself. So the fourth one is it is only focused on economic decision making. So it not consists a long term decision making as I said earlier. The similarities between the neoclassical and other model that focusing on at the short term. And the fifth one is it is does not describe a different economic situation. And neoclassical model is not explaining other causes that can reducing capacity of economy. So next one, I will explain about the Harrod-Domar model. The Harrod-Domar model is a Keynesian model of economic growth. It is used in development economics to explain an economic's growth rate in terms of the level of saving and the capital. It suggests that there is no natural reason for an economy to have a balanced growth. The model was developed in the Baden by Roy F. Harrod in 1939 and R.C. Domar in 1946. So what is the differences between the Harrod-Domar model and other model? Harrod-Domar model is a Keynesian model of economic growth. This is a total spending economy and its effect on output, employment, or inflation. So the second one is it is focused for the cost of instability and rate of investment in the capital needs. And the third one, the Harrod-Domar assumes constant marginal returns to capital, while Solow assumes decreasing marginal returns to capital. What is the similarities between the Harrod-Domar model and also other models such as a neoclassical model or Karl Marx model? The similarities in Harrod-Domar is the defining factor. For both was the rate of economic growth is a saving equal to income or price and theory discuss about government spending in capitalist economy or economic growth depends on investment. The strength of a Harrod-Domar model is it is higher saving create a virtuous circle of self-sustaining economic growth. Using a saving for investment, success of investment will stabilize the economy. Meanwhile, failed investment bring to the imbalanced economy. The second one is used for the calculation of income, saving, and investment target, which were vital in the planning of an underdeveloped economy. Underdeveloped economy needs stability economy, and important for them using a Harrod-Domar method. The third one is the saving rate and the capital output ratio affect the growth rate of a capital. If people having saving more, then they have money to pay for the liabilities and bear your own life. So what is the weaknesses of the Harrod-Domar model? The first one is developing countries will find it difficult to increase savings because these countries such as Japan or Singapore economic growth rate or output actual is strong influenced by expectations, decisions, and errors. The second one is ignores factors such as labor productivity, technological innovations, and levels of corruption. It is only focusing in imbalanced economy and investments because there are no information in economy. The third one is the economic growth of a capital at the guaranteed rate of a growth with full employment is not very possible. Then the fourth one, or the last weaknesses of the Harrodoma model, is the capitalist economy that is not converges towards equilibrium. Capitalist economy different than a central planning economy such as United States of America, where it depends on private sector toward economic stability and no confirmation on development of a country. So in conclusion, there are some strength, weakness, similarities or differences in all model that we are stated. So thank you very much.